Good morning guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at independent driving, following signs. That'll be coming up right after this. Stay tuned. Okay, so today then we're looking at, as I said, independent driving, following signs. You should remember on your test there is 20 minutes of independent driving. That could be either following satellite navigation system, which they would supply, or following signs or directions. So, how does it work? Mainly, there is an 80% chance of you following a sat-nav. So you've got a 4 out of 5 chance of following the sat-nav. Most people prefer to follow the satellite navigation system rather than following signs because it is that much easier. You've got the satellite to actually look at. You've got the blue line to actually follow. You've got the verbal commands. Everything's there for you to actually follow, but I'll be doing a separate video on that coming up shortly. But today it is following signs, which means you do have to look out just that little bit more. If you're doing your test in an unfamiliar town, it would be wise to go to that town probably 3 or 4 times to look at the different signs to work out whether you'll go. That could be quite beneficial to you. Today we're looking at going around High Wycombe, and one test route in particular for this particular one, following signs. So without further ado, let's get at it. So we're starting off from the test centre road again, coming out, and you've been told just to turn right at the end of the road. So looking around to make sure it's safe and clear. Slightly different setup today with the cameras, as I've got the GoPro looking out at the front of the car through the screen attached to the screen, because I'll be looking quite intently at following the signs. Hopefully we can pick them up and I can point them out to you. So you've been told to turn right at the end of the road. So centre and right mirror check indicate right. Gently coming up, just left of the centre line, making sure I don't stop over the actual giveaway line. Looking right and left all the time to make sure it's safe and clear, giving myself plenty of room to get out. Hopefully the GoPro on the left hand side of the car is showing you the cars coming down from my right, and it's safe to proceed out. And then new road, new mirrors, just to check your centre and right mirror, just to make sure it's safe and clear. So if you're following signs or directions, the examiner would normally not stop the car. They would just say to you, we're starting your independent driving section from here, and I'd like you to follow signs for whatever. So let's say today then we're coming down here and they've said to you, follow signs for Aylesbury, and then that's basically all they'll say. So you've now got to be following signs for Aylesbury until they tell you otherwise. So remember, it is 20 minutes of independent driving, so you could in that time do an emergency stop. You could also do your reversing manoeuvre, so it's not just the independent drive, there are other things that you could be doing at it, or within it at the same time. So coming up to a crossroads now, lights are changing to red quite early, so they could go back to green before I get there. Before the lights I can see the pedestrian crossing and the junction on the right, so just taking extra caution, checking my mirrors on approach. Everything's fine to proceed through. Reducing my speed in the hope the lights will change. Possibly they won't. but just gentle braking up to it, checking my mirrors again to make sure nothing's hurtling towards me from behind. So as I go through this junction then, just a quick sneaky peeky right and left to make sure no one's jumping the lights. So we are coming up to a roundabout, and potentially the examiner would say, just to remind you, we are following signs for Aylesbury. So hopefully you can see the roundabout sign now, taking it a little slower than I normally would, but you can see the sign for Aylesbury is to the right. So central right mirror check, indicate right, start looking right and ahead, and as I come round just after the junction before the one I'm on, central and left mirror check, indicate left, and then indicator off, new road, new mirrors, central right mirror check. Now potentially they wouldn't say anything now. You will be coming up to another roundabout. You can see a sign there for the roundabout. Aylesbury is ahead, second exit. So left hand lane to go ahead because there aren't any signs or paintwork to tell me otherwise. Gently braking, keep it in the left to go ahead. Looking right and ahead, mirrors, centre and left indicate. I can move over this zebra crossing because it's a zebra crossing. Got the island in the middle. Checking my mirrors. And again, they wouldn't really be saying anything too much because it's not really their job to put you off your driving. You'll probably get the question of what would you be doing with your day if you weren't on your driving test. If you want to chat, then open up and say, oh, I'd be doing work, school, whatever. But don't get into a situation of a long drawn out conversation and not be concentrating on your driving. That would be a bad thing. There are several roads off this particular road. They could just say to you, turn left, turn right. That's where you'd be possibly doing a manoeuvre. And then they'd bring you back onto the same road and they'd say to you, continue following signs for Aylesbury. Got to watch yourself coming down this hill. The car can speed up quite easily. It's a long hill, but remember you mustn't go over 30 miles an hour. There's a speed camera further up the hill. You may have seen it as we came down. Quite often they have another speed trap in that lay-by there on the other side of the road. So just about here they could say to you, just to remind you, we are following signs for Aylesbury. So I can tell you a double roundabout's coming up now. The second roundabout actually sets you up for the first roundabout. So whichever lane you want for the second roundabout, use for the first roundabout. So we can see on the second roundabout there we'll be going ahead. So we will be using the left-hand lane on the first roundabout. If I was turning right on the second roundabout, I'll be using the right-hand lane to turn right. So to go ahead at the first roundabout, right at the second. So checking my right-hand mirror before I come out, just in case anybody's diving down the right-hand side. And as you can see now, I'm coming into the left-hand lane, but checking ahead to make sure no one's going to turn in front of me. So that guy there has actually come out quite a long way, so I'll just keep careful of him. And then looking at the roundabout, right and ahead, right and ahead. And around about this time they could say to you, stop following signs Aylesbury, start following signs for town centre. And and that's basically all they'll say. Again, watching your speed coming down this hill. As you can see, there's the new style camera there over the other side of the road that gets you both ways, forwards or backwards. So hopefully you can see the sign coming up now, town centre on the right. It's quite a dirty sign and quite hidden by the trees. So gentle braking, checking my mirrors, looking into the road, turning the correct points, centre right mirror check to make sure it's safe and clear. Still following signs for town centre because you haven't been told anything else, and hopefully you can see the sign ahead now, town centre is to the left. So mirror centre and left indicate. Gently coming up, following the curb round, stopping before if I need to, nothing coming, so continue on through. And now we're going to be told to follow signs Downley. So you can see there Downley is to the left. Carry on through there, still following signs Downley. And there's a crafted little sign there, just on the left, you may see it. Downley is right at these traffic lights. Got to be careful of these lights. You can only go when the right hand set of lights points an arrow to the right. Some people may try and go to the centre of the junction and hold. Some people may try and go to the centre of the junction and hold when the head arrow shows. That's not what they're telling you to do. So that's not what they're telling you to do, so you'd be just dual controlled. So you can see the sign for Downley now. They would have told you at the beginning of the test just to keep going ahead. Unless they tell you otherwise, so you just carry on up the hill, either waiting for them to say something, into signs to follow, or that would be the end. Either say to you turn right here, so they could either say to you turn right here or carry on down the road. So this would be the end of the independent driving section. They just say that to you on the road, and you'd be following their directions from then on. So basically that's just the independent driving, following signs. Not too difficult, but then I knew where the signs were. With the pressure of the test, with the examiner sitting next to you, it can be a little difficult to pick up the signs, which is why I say it's always wise to go around the town that you're taking your test in, the city, the town, wherever. If you're with a driving instructor, they may well have actually, or hopefully they have, taught you independent driving following signs, and may well have shown you a couple of the naughty ones that may be picked up on a practical test as well. So that's it. Not too difficult, but if you've got any thoughts on the subject, then do comment below. And if you could subscribe and like, I'd be very grateful. It does help the channel to grow and gives me the motivation to carry on doing these things. Thanks very much. Have a great day.